The words landed like thunder. Mouths fell open. Someone dropped a goblet. Lady Selina stared as if the world had tilted. Her! She choked. She owns nothing. She is no one. She... The Queen raised a hand. That is enough, she said sharply. The King studied Lila with a careful gaze. Step forward, child, he said. Lila's legs shook as she did. The King's voice softened. Do you wish this, sir? Choice is important. We will not force a crown upon a head that does not want it. She looked at the prince. His eyes were steady, kind, and strangely familiar, like the eyes of the man who had shared her bread. Lila thought of her hut, her lonely nights, her hard days. She thought of Nana and Mara's stories, of her own journey from envy to understanding. She also thought of what she could do here, how many hungry people she could feed, how many servants she could protect, how many forgotten voices she could help lift. Her fear whispered, You are too small for this, but her heart answered, No, you have grown. Yes, she said quietly, voice gaining strength with each word. If I can use this place to make things fairer for others, then yes, I accept. A slow smile spread across the King's face. So be it, he declared. The court erupted in a mix of shock and applause. Lady Selene turned away, her pride sliced by the sharp blade of truth. Her greed, which had pushed her to the front of every crowd, now left her standing alone at the edge. This was her karma. Lila, the girl from the leaking hut at the end of the village, stepped forward. Prince Rayan extended his hand. As she took it, she felt Nana Amara's invisible fingers guiding her spine straight, lifting her head and smoothing the tremble in her shoulders. She did not feel like a poor orphan anymore. She felt like herself, seen, chosen, not for a dress, not for gold, not for a painted smile, but for a heart that had learned to see. Truis, moral of the story. True beauty is not in the face, the dress, or the gold. Real beauty lives in a heart that can see others clearly and treat them with kindness, especially when no one is watching. Pride and greed always look powerful in the beginning, but in the end they turn against the people who hold them. Kindness may look small and invisible at first, but it is the only treasure that grows every time you give it away. If this tale touched your heart, share it with someone who needs hope today. What would you choose, shining pride or quiet kindness? Lady Selene stepped forward, face twisted in disgust. Clumsy fool, she snapped. You nearly stained my dress. Do you know how much this cost? More than you will see in your lifetime. Some of the other girls laughed. The servants' shoulders shook. Lila felt something sharp inside her snap. Not with envy this time, but with anger. Without thinking, she hurried forward. It's all right, Lila said gently, kneeling beside the girl. Spills can be cleaned. No one is hurt. She began picking up the cups, her fingers moving quickly. She looked up at Lady Selene. Her voice stayed calm, though her heart beat fast. We all make mistakes, Lila said, even those who wear gold. Lady Selene's eyes flashed. Who asked for your opinion, village girl? Lila almost shrank back, but then she remembered Nana Amara's lessons. Speak firmly without cruelty. I'm not arguing, Lila replied. I'm only saying a person is worth more than the price of a dress. A soft murmur spread through the garden. From somewhere unseen, Lila felt someone watching her. Act 3. The Choice of the True Prince. Later, as the sun lowered and the sky turned soft and golden, the maidens were gathered once more in the grand hall. The king stood. Today, he announced, we have watched you all. We have looked beyond your beauty and your clothes. The decision of who will stand beside our son as future queen is not a light one. Whispers fluttered like birds among the girls. Lila's heart hammered. She tried to remind herself, this is not your world. You will go back to your hut. You have already gained so much. Courage, dignity, understanding. That is enough. But another smaller voice inside whispered, "What if?" Then Prince Rayan stepped forward. He looked calmer than anyone in the room. "A queen," he said, loud enough for all to hear, "must know how to see people, not just things." He began to walk slowly along the line of girls. "When I first heard of this bride selection," he continued, "I feared it would become a display of gold and status. So I made a decision." He stopped in the centre of the hall. "For the past month I have walked among my people. Not as a prince, but in disguise." A shock ran through the room. "I have stood in the market," he said. "I have walked the village road. I have sat by the palace fountain. I have watched how you treat those you think are unimportant." Lila's breath caught. The man at the fountain, the cracked clay cup. Her skin tingled. Prince Rayan's eyes met hers across the room. For a heartbeat, it felt like the whole fell away. He turned to the king and queen. "Father, mother," he said, "I have already seen enough to know who I wish to choose." The girls straightened. Lady Selene stepped slightly forward, confident. The prince's gaze swept past her. "Lady Selene," he said, voice still calm, "you are beautiful. No one can deny that. Your dress alone could feed a village for a year. But beauty without kindness," he paused, "is like a jewel in the mouth of a snake. Shiny and dangerous." Gasps. Lady Selene's face went pale, then flushed red. "How dare you?" she began. "I saw you push aside an old woman at the gate last week because she was in your way," Prince Rayan said evenly. "I saw you today call a servant a fool because she stumbled." His eyes were steady. "I will not put a crown on cruelty." Lady Selene's mouth closed. Pride, her great treasure, had become her downfall. This was the calmer style reversal she never saw coming. Her greed and pride, meant to lift her higher, now dragged her down in front of everyone. She stepped back, trembling with rage and humiliation. Then the prince turned. "And you," he said, walking toward Lila. Lila wanted to disappear, or run, or wake up. He stopped in front of her, close enough that she could see a faint scar on his left hand and a small freckle near his eye. "In the market," he said, "I sat by the fountain with nothing but a cracked cup. Many passed by. Some did not see me at all. Some threw me coins without looking at my face." Lila's lungs forgot how to work. "You," he said softly, "broke your only loaf of bread in half and shared it with me. You did it even though you were hungry. You did it even though you did not know my name. You did not give to impress. You gave because you could not bear to eat while another starved." The hall was silent. Lila's cheeks burned. She wanted to protest. "I am a nobody. I am not meant to stand here." But the prince continued. "And today, when a servant fell, you did not laugh. You did not insult her. You knelt beside her and helped." He took a slow breath. "In a room full of girls, trying to show me their worth, you were the only one who showed me mine. Not as a prince, but as a hungry man and as a servant in trouble. You saw me as human in both." He turned to the king and queen again. "I choose her," he said simply, "Lila of the village. Thank you, even on days when she received little." Most importantly, she taught Lila to look at people carefully. When a girl mocked her in the street, Nana asked, what pain might she be hiding behind that laughter? When a merchant lied about the price, Nana asked, what fear makes him cling to coins like a drowning man to a branch? At first, Lila resisted. "Why should I care about their pain?" she asked one night, exhausted. "No one cares about mine." Nana Amara looked at her steadily. "That is your flaw, child. Your pain has made your eyes sharp, but also hard. You think if the world has been unfair to you, you owe it no kindness." She leaned forward. But listen carefully. If you let your suffering turn into bitterness, the world wins twice. First it hurts you, then it makes you hurt others. Lila fell silent. She didn't want the world to win, so she tried, slowly, awkwardly but honestly. She started to see that pride, greed and envy were not only in rich people. They lived in everyone, even her. Every time jealousy rose, she caught it like a spark before it became fire. 3 weeks later, on the morning of the prince's bride selection, Nana Amara opened an old chest. Inside was a dress. It was not silk, it was not shimmering, but it was clean, carefully sewn, and soft to the touch, light blue, like the sky just after dawn. I made this many years ago, Nana said, for a granddaughter I never had. Today you will wear it. Lila stared in shock. Nana, I can't. This is too much. I'm just a village girl. You are not just anything, Nana replied, her voice firm. You are a girl who fed a hungry stranger from her own hunger. You are a girl who listens and learns. You have the right to stand in any room in this kingdom. Whether they see it or not is their blindness, not your shame. Tears blurred Lila's vision. She let Nana Amara dress her, braid her hair, and tie the copper bracelet gently around her wrist. When she saw herself in the old cracked mirror, Lila sucked in a breath. She did not look like a princess, but she looked like someone she could respect. Remember, Nana said, pressing her wrinkled hands over Lila's, you are not going to beg for a place. You are going to offer who you are. If they cannot see it, it is their loss, not yours. Lila nodded, heart pounding. Then she set off toward the palace. The palace gates were crowded with carriages and horses. Bright dresses, jewels and perfumes filled the air with colour and scent. Laughter tinkled like glass. Lila felt suddenly very small. She stepped through the gates, keeping to the side, so a simple dress wouldn't touch anyone's silk by accident. She heard whispers. Who is that? Is she a servant? Look at her plain dress. Heat rose in Lila's cheeks. Her old feelings of shame and envy clawed at her chest. Then Nana Amara's voice came back to her. Hold your head high without arrogance. She lifted her chin. She took a deep breath. I have nothing to prove, she told herself. I only have myself to offer. Inside the great hall, the walls were lined with golden candles. Musicians played softly. The king and queen sat on 2 high chairs, and beside them stood the prince, Prince Rayan. He was tall, dark-haired, with eyes that seemed to watch everything at once. His clothes were rich, but his expression was not bored like Lila had imagined. He seemed thoughtful. One by one, the girls approached, curtsied and spoke. Some bragged about their family wealth. Some showed off their education. Some smiled with shy charm. At the centre of them stood Lady Selina. Lady Selina was the daughter of one of the richest lords in the kingdom. Her dress sparkled with tiny gems, and her hair was woven with gold threads. Her beauty silenced the room when she moved, but when she glanced at Lila, her eyes narrowed with cold disdain. Lila felt the familiar sting. She is everything I am not, she thought. Beautiful, rich, important. Then she forced herself to look again, really look as Nana had taught her. She saw something tight around Lady Selina's mouth, a hunger, a need to be the most admired, the most adored. Her beauty is a cage, Lila realised. If anyone loves anyone else more, she will feel less. That must be exhausting. A trumpet sounded, a herald announced, all maidens will now move into the garden. His Highness Prince Rayan will speak with each of you. Your words and actions today will guide his choice. They moved in a graceful river of colour into the palace gardens, where fountains sparkled and birds sang in the trees. Servants lined up with trays of food and drink. One servant, a young girl with nervous eyes, tripped on a stone. The tray slipped. Goblets and pastries crashed to the ground, spilling juice and crumbs on the path. The garden went silent. The servant fell to her knees, trembling. I'm so sorry, she stammered, tears in her eyes. Palace to show themselves, but the right person will be the one who can see others. Tell me, child, how do your eyes see the world? Lila shifted uncomfortably. Shame pricked at her. I don't know, she whispered. Sometimes I feel angry when I see rich people. I feel small and invisible. I think it's not fair. Fair, Nana Amara smiled sadly. The world is not fair, but your heart can be. The wealth you cannot have in coins, you can have in character, but it comes with a cost. What cost? A test. Lila's eyes widened. A test? Yes, Nana said. If you wish to stand in that palace honestly, without your heart bowing to envy, you must pass a simple test today. Take one of your loaves of bread and your mother's bracelet. Go to the market. Whoever asks you for help first, you must decide whether to keep what you have or to give it. No one will see except your own heart. Leela stared at the few items in front of her. But, Nana, this bracelet is the only thing of my mother's I have left. And the bread, I worked all yesterday for it. I know, the old woman said gently. That is why it is a real test. If you only give what you do not need, your heart does not grow. It simply stays comfortable. Lila bit her lip. Her first instinct screamed, No, I have so little already. But inside, another voice whispered, If you keep everything tightly in your fists, will your hands ever be free to receive something new? She stood up, trembling a little. All right, she said quietly. I'll go. The market buzzed with its usual life, sellers shouting, carts creaking, children laughing, chickens clucking in cages. The smell of bread, spices and animals filled the air. Lila walked slowly, clutching the cloth bag. Minutes passed. No one asked her for help. She almost sighed with relief. Maybe no one will ask, she thought. Then I won't have to choose. Then at the edge of the square she heard it. Child, could you help me? The voice came from a man sitting on the ground near the fountain. His clothes were torn, his beard untrimmed, and his hands shook as he tried to drink from a cracked clay cup. His eyes were tired, but kind. Lila stopped. The man coughed. Do you have a bit of bread to spare? I haven't eaten since yesterday. Lila's heart pounded. Her fingers tightened on the bag. She thought of her empty hut, her hungry evenings, her long days of work. If I give this bread, what will I eat tonight? Her stomach already felt hollow. The bracelet clinked softly inside the bag. Then she thought of Nana Amara's story, the servant boy and the beggar king. Slowly she knelt down and brought out the loaf. I can share, she said, her voice shaking just a little. It's not much, but it's enough for two. She broke the loaf carefully, trying to make the halves equal, and placed one half in the man's hand. He looked at her with surprise, and something like deep gratitude. You are very kind, he murmured. May your kindness return to you in ways you cannot yet imagine. They ate in silence for a moment. Then the man's gaze fell on the bracelet glinting in the bag. That is a beautiful bracelet, he said. Is it yours? Lila reached up and touched it. It was my mother's, she replied softly. It's all I have left of her. The man nodded slowly, understanding. Then keep it close, he said, not for its metal, but for the love it reminds you of. Some treasures should never be traded. Lila blinked. She had expected him to ask for it, but he hadn't. The tightness in her chest loosened a little. I thought I had to give everything to be a good person, she admitted. He smiled faintly. A good heart knows when to give and when to keep. Giving should not come from fear, or from trying to buy a reward. It should come from love. You gave me bread from your hunger. That is enough. Lila felt heat rise behind her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. When she looked up again, someone was calling her name across the square. Lila! Lila! It was Mara, the baker's wife. She hurried over, apron dusted with flour. There you are. I've been looking everywhere. We are short on help today. If you work till sunset, I'll give you 2 extra loaves and some stew. Lila's eyes widened. 2 extra loaves and stew. She glanced back at the man by the fountain to tell him, but he was gone, vanished, as if he had never been there at all. Only the cracked clay cup remained, sitting on the ground. Lila shivered. For a moment she heard Nana Amara's words in her mind. Your heart will be the only witness. She touched the half-loaf still in her hand and smiled to herself. Maybe the world is cruel, she thought, but not every moment is. Days passed. Every evening after work, Lila visited Nana Amara. The old woman taught her how to walk with her head high without arrogance, how to speak firmly without cruelty, how to see beauty beyond shine. She taught her to say, plus squealed, mothers gasped, fathers started planning, even little children danced around in circles, chanting, the prince, the prince, the prince. Lila stood at the edge of the crowd, clutching a loaf of stale bread she had just bought. The word bride echoed in her ears like a distant song. A bride, the prince's bride. She imagined the palace, the shining floors, the long tables heavy with food, the gardens with fountains that never ran dry. She imagined wearing a dress that didn't itch, shoes that didn't hurt, jewels that didn't belong to someone else. Then she caught her reflection in a puddle at her feet, dust on her cheeks, hair tangled with straw, dress hanging loose on her thin frame. She laughed once bitterly. Not for girls like me, she muttered, taking a bite of the hard bread. He will choose someone who shines, not someone who scrubs floorboards. As she turned to leave, a soft, shaky voice spoke behind her. Child, be careful how you speak about yourself. The world repeats the names you give yourself. Lila turned and saw old Nana Amara. Nana Amara was the oldest woman in the village. No one knew her exact age. Her back was bent like a bow, her hands shook, and her eyes were clouded with time. Parents said she remembered things even the wind had forgotten. She sat on her usual stool by the well, wrapped in a faded shawl. Nana, I'm just telling the truth, Lila said, swallowing the lump in her throat. I'm poor. I'm alone. I'm nothing special. The old woman tilted her head. Poor? Yes, alone? Perhaps, but nothing special. She clicked her tongue. Only blind eyes would say that. Are yours blind, child? Lila flushed. What do you mean? Nana Amara's wrinkled hand lifted, pointing toward the road where the rich girls had already gone. The prince will look and see what the world always sees, gold, silk, polished smiles. But not every eye sees the same way, and not every heart chooses the way people expect. Lila shook her head. Someone like me could never stand among them. They would laugh. The old woman studied her quietly, then said in a low voice, 3 weeks is a long time in the life of a brave heart. Come see me tomorrow at sunrise. Bring whatever little you have. I will tell you a story, and then you will decide what you truly are. Curiosity tugged at Lila. She had always liked Nana Amara's stories, but what could a story change? She hesitated, then nodded. All right, Nana, I'll come. As Lila walked back to her hut, the evening sky burned orange, and the first stars appeared. In her chest, under her bruised pride and quiet envy, something small fluttered. Hope. Small, but there. Shag Shack 2. The Test of the Hidden Heart. The next morning the sky was still purple when Lila knocked on Nana Amara's door. She had brought everything she could call her own: a thin copper bracelet, her mother's, a small wooden comb, her father's, and a cloth bag with 2 small loaves of coarse bread. Nana Amara let her in. The old woman's house was simple: a low bed, shelves filled with jars and hoobs, a little window where the light fell in soft squares on the floor. "Sit, child," Nana said. Lila sat cross-legged on the floor. Her stomach growled quietly, but she tried to ignore it. "You said you would tell me a story," Lila reminded her. "And I will," the old woman said. "But first you must answer a question. If you stood in a room full of beautiful, rich girls, what would you wish for most?" Lila didn't even have to think. "I would wish to be prettier and richer, so I wouldn't feel ashamed." Nana Amara nodded slowly. "Honest, that is good. Now listen," she began. "Long ago, in this same kingdom, a great king wanted to choose an advisor. He called all the noble sons to his court. They were clever, educated, and proud. But there was one poor boy, a servant, who delivered water to the court. He was not invited. An old wise man said to the king, 'If you want to know who deserves the highest honour, do not watch how they treat you. Watch how they treat those they gain nothing from.' So the king disguised himself as a blind beggar and stood outside the palace gate." Lila leaned closer. "One by one," Nana Amara continued, "the noble sons passed him. They did not know the beggar was their king. Some gave him a coin without looking at his face. Some ignored him. One kicked his bowl aside, laughing. Only the poor servant boy stopped. He had only 1 piece of bread for his lunch. He broke it in half and put 1/2 into the beggar's hand. 'It's not much, father,' he said, 'but if I eat while you starve, the bread will taste like stone in my mouth.' The king chose him as advisor. Do you know why?" Lila swallowed. "Because he was kind." "Because," Nana said, "he saw a hungry man, not a useless beggar. His eyes did not belong to his pride. They belonged to his heart." The old woman fixed her cloudy eyes on Lila. "Everyone will go to the Iotsi. If a prince had to choose a bride from the most beautiful and wealthy girls in the land, would he ever even see the poorest orphan in the crowd? And if you were that orphan, would you dare to stand among them?" Act 1. The girl from the last hut in a tiny village at the far edge of the kingdom, in a crooked little hut with a roof that always leaked when it rained, lived a girl named Lila. Lila was an orphan. She had no mother to comb her hair, no father to bring home bread. Her family was a faded memory, a smell of smoke, a warm laugh in the dark, a lullaby she could still hum but could no longer place. Now she woke up every morning alone. She scrubbed pots at the baker's shop for scraps, hauled water for neighbours for a few coins, and collected firewood in the forest to sell in the market. Her dress was patched so many times that no one could remember its original colour. Her shoes had holes, her hands were rough and cracked, but her eyes were bright. They held a quiet, stubborn light, like a candle that refused to go out. Still, Lila had a flaw that made her heart heavy. Every week, rich merchants' daughters rode past the village on their way to the city, wearing silk dresses that shimmered like water. Their hair was brushed smooth, their bracelets jingled, and the sun seemed to follow them. Lila would pause with her heavy bucket and watch. Sometimes she felt something sharp and burning rise in her chest. It must be nice, she would think bitterly, to be born loved, to be born important, to be born beautiful. She didn't hate them exactly. She hated the distance between them and her. One evening, the whole village gathered in the square. The old town crier, A thin man with a voice like a cracked bell climbed on a crate and shouted, "Hear this, by order of the king. In 3 weeks' time, Prince Rayan will choose a bride. All maidens of the kingdom, of noble and merchant houses, are invited to the palace to present themselves." The square exploded with noise. Girls,